Hello, my name is Elijah Selby, and you are listening to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast.
Oh yeah.
I'm joined as always by JP Bennett, my co-host. JP, how you doing today?
Well, first off, I'm loving the new music.
Yeah,
It's all hyped up, right?
yeah,
But
yeah, it is.
I've come to terms with the fact that my luscious locks are just gonna have to run rampant for now because we can't get a haircut now unless you do it yourself. But I've accepted it and I'm willing to let it grow. But
Yeah,
how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I did some research into your hornet problem.
Oh
Uh,
yeah?
yeah, we don't really got anything to worry about, but honeybees, English honeybees, they should be afraid
Oh
because
no.
they can just die. But there is some bees that have formed a defense to these hornets by making a ball around them and roasting them like an oven. I don't know the science behind it, but that's what they do. It's crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
good for them. Save the bees. These precious bees cannot get attacked by these stupid, terrible hornets. Get them out of my life. But thank Lord, I don't have to worry about them. I can go out in the wild and not be worried.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna stop this music and we can get right into it. Okay. So from the first video that we did prior to this, that was a part 1. We had 1 through 12 of our top fantasy running backs, and so we're gonna cover in this video is I'd say harder to place running backs 13 through 24.
Oh yeah.
That if you choose a wide receiver in the first round and everyone else went running back, look at this list. And so we're gonna get into it. Number 13, Leonard Fournette is who we had together. I think that I talked about in the last video that you're getting into these people with no like dual backfield, no like competition that they have still, and he's towards the rear end because of just who was ahead of him. But he's just as talented. He had an insane amount of receiving last year that I wasn't expecting him to have.
Right.
But he finished. Do you have his running back ranking? Because I actually just deleted mine as I pulled this up here.
I'll pull it up here.
Yeah. But as he finds that, I believe he finished really well as the solo running back in his backfield. And I think with them building that offense behind Minshew and those receivers, I think their offense is going to be more developed, which is going to help them even more.
He was RB6, six running back.
RB6. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
mean he had a good year. I mean he's not in our top 12. This doesn't discount him too terribly, really. I mean he's still up in that option for a borderline, running back 1. If you go wide receiver early, but yeah, I mean, we don't have him finishing nearly as high as he did last year. I mean, but the thing is, I don't expect him to replicate those receiving numbers, right? He had so few touchdowns, though, so I think the points are gonna like kind of switch. I think he's gonna lose receptions and get more touchdowns. So I think he's gonna have a pretty similar year, but I just think these other guys are gonna do better than him personally. But it's the guy they added Chris Thompson, right?
yeah.
So when I was looking at that at first, I was like, okay, I don't think his receptions are going to replicate. But then after the draft, they didn't add anybody. I was like, what if he does and he gets more touchdowns? He could I'd probably put him in my top 10. But then when they added Chris Thompson, I know he's very injury prone, but he's a great receiving back. And you have Gruden there. Pretty sure Jay Gruden, he's the offensive coordinator there. And he believes in Chris Thompson. So he's going to be on the field. He's going to take some snaps from Fournette, but he's still going to have a big role. Fournette will. That's
Yeah.
just personally why he's not in my top 12, and also the fact that this is the most games he's played in a single season. He's always been a pretty injury-prone guy, and that was with 15 games was the most he played. And we also saw that they were kind of hinting at the idea that they might trade him too. So I don't know how much they love him, but this could be his last year on the team, so they can just run him into the ground though. So I don't think you have to worry about that necessarily.
Yeah, and I mean, Chris Thompson maybe could help him if, as being maybe as injury prone as he's been in the past. This maybe takes a load off of him a little, but not in a way that would affect him, but have him be at full strength whenever he's in there. Yeah. Okay, so next running back on our list, number 14, Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns. My, I'll start with my worries here. Worries being Kareem Hunt,
Mm-hmm.
being the single person called Kareem Hunt.
The elephant in the
Uh,
room.
yeah. So of course, Kareem Hunt last year, he was on that suspension, and then he came back at week 8, I believe,
Week 10.
week 10. Oh gosh, all these suspensions. Man, players need to get out of trouble so I can get these clear. Anyways, so he came back and he didn't take as much away as I thought he would, but I know they tried to get him in there a good amount. And what you'll see more from him, again, not really just a pass catching back, but he's could be a specialist in receptions. And then Nick Chubb is gonna be more the pound ground. What am I trying to say? The
Pound the rock.
pound the rock type running back. I had it there, man. Okay, so then you're gonna have that split right there. But I believe that with the way they've been using Nick Chubb and how much they like him, that he's still gonna have a good amount of fantasy value, being they finished running back 8 last year, and that their offense is from on paper again stacked, and it just opens up the field for the both of them to succeed. But I think again on the goal line as well for Nick Chubb to succeed.
Yeah, well, yeah, the big thing, of course, was Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb, he was off to a hot start before Kareem Hunt came in. And I have the splits right here. So before Kareem Hunt came back from suspension, Nick Chubb was averaging 20 points per game, which those are very good numbers. But when Kareem Hunt came back, he was averaging 14 points per game. And I mean, that's a 6 point drop. That's that's pretty significant right there. And
Yeah.
I personally think that they're both top 25 running backs in the league, talent wise. I think Kareem Hunt is a great talent. And the big question with this is how much are they going to use Kareem Hunt, right?
Hmm.
Like I said, I think he's very talented. I think he has the chance to have like a 50-50 split right here. That's what worries me. But I also think Nick Chubb is a very talented running back. He's been efficient on the ground. I mean, he's had 2 seasons and he's been great both seasons when he gets the ball. But this is a great offense. Like I said, Nick Chubb's a talented guy. He's going to get the ball. So he's I think his ceiling is just limited is what it is. If one of these guys gets hurt,
Yeah.
I think the other guy is a top 10 running back. I would plug him right in, have no hesitation, right? But that's just what I can't quite figure out is now with a full off season, with them knowing they're going to have Kareem Hunt, they're going to game plan to have Kareem Hunt. I think he's going to be used a little bit more. So I personally wouldn't feel comfortable with Nick Chubb being in my top 12 running backs.
Yeah, and you said it could be like a 50-50 split, but what happens if they like Kareem Hunt more?
They could. They very well
Yeah.
could because he's a very talented guy.
Yeah, so a big worry, but talent-wise, maybe you could say right there with 14, Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt to have as whoever wins that battle.
Yeah, I mean, Kareem Hunt should be a little higher. I think everybody is probably a little bit too far down on him because this split might not be as, far in Nick Chubb's favor as we think.
Yeah. All right, so moving on, number 15, Todd Gurley went to your favorite team, the Falcons. Uh, I'm liking this for Todd Gurley, moving from a worse offensive line to a better offensive line. He doesn't really have competition in the backfield. Ito Smith, I don't really see impacting him at all. And he was doing so well before that arthritis, that big knee thing that he had. You
Yes.
just wonder, has he had enough time to get back to himself, or has he been taking it slow to then go back to where he could be? And I think he has all the weapons being in the offense around him to take pressure off, as well
Hmm.
as the offensive line. So if he's going to thrive anywhere, I think the Falcons give him a good chance.
Yeah, the biggest worry with Gurley, well, besides his knee, with the landing spot, the biggest worry is that they are such a pass first offense. But
Mhm.
that's not necessarily a huge negative if the running back is used in the passing game, which the Falcons do use their running backs in the passing game. Last season with Devonta Freeman there, he was averaging 4.2 catches per game, which that's pretty good right there. I mean, that would extrapolate to 65 to 70 catches a game, which I'd be very happy with. And I think Tiger really has the potential to do that. We saw with the Rams, he was used. I mean, this past season, he wasn't used as much in the passing game, but in years prior, we saw he was very capable there. So I think that he will be involved a lot there. Like you said, the depth behind him is it's not very scary. I mean, Ito Smith, Brian Hill, they're not gonna demand playing time really. I mean, they might take a little bit off of him, but I don't think it's gonna be eating into his workload so much. So with that passing game involvement, on top of him probably being a workhorse running back, he has a chance at getting 1,000 rushing yards on top of all the passing game involvement. So I mean, his ceiling I think is pretty high. If he gets
Yeah,
high touchdown totals with those yardage and those catches, he could be a top 10 running back easy. I mean, honestly, it's just the knee. That's the thing. It's looking like a ticking time bomb because arthritis doesn't really get better. It just kind of gets worse, unfortunately.
yeah, and, and like you said, that's the unfortunate part about it.
Yeah, but what's encouraging though is he's only signed to a 1 year deal, so the Falcons are not going to be wary of using him too much. He's
Mhm.
only on a 1 year contract. They can run him into the ground, use him as much as they want, and it's not their problem in the future.
Not, yeah, I mean that sounds bad, but I mean that's entirely true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does sound pretty dark.
All right, so moving on, number 16, Chris Carson of the Seattle Seahawks. Uh, I really love Chris Carson as a running back. Unfortunately, he's been dealing with the competition with Rashad Penny, as well as, I mean, they both got injured towards the end of last season. And I really don't think that injury will impact him too much going into this season. Um, I think he was healthy prior to this. I think a one-time injury you shouldn't be too cautious of. Um, but I think his yards per game, he's always been really solid with that. Not yards per game, yards per carry has always been pretty solid. And I think he's the more talented out of the two. It's just that they compete, and I think they really liked what they saw at the end of Rashad Penny last year. So he's gonna be knocked down a few. And he was running back 12 last year. We have him at 16. It's not too bad, but you never know. Let's say Rashad Penny gets injured right away. Chris Carson's gonna have an amazing year.
Well, actually, what Pete Carroll says, Pete Carroll's all sunshines and rainbows. When he talks about his players being hurt, he's always
Yeah.
like, "Oh, they'll be fine." He's always so optimistic. But when he talked about Rashad Penny's injury, he said, "Well, he'll probably start on the pup list," which that means he would automatically not be eligible to play the first half of the season.
Mhm.
Which, like I said, Pete Carroll, he's always so optimistic. So to hear that is that that seems like it very well could be true because he suffered a pretty serious injury.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that. Did he say that through the off season?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
that's crazy. Then, my take on Chris Carson moves up a little bit if that's how
If that,
his
if
shot
when
penny starts out. Yeah.
Yeah, if that was confirmed for sure.
Mhm.
But I personally believe because of the fact that they are expecting Penny to be on the pup list to begin the season, I think that they're going to add somebody to that backfield. That's what I expect. They drafted DJ Dallas. I mean, he might be a solid running back, but he's not going to, complete the depth of that backfield. I think they might add somebody. There's been rumors that they're linked to a reunion with Marshawn Lynch. I don't know if it'll happen.
Yeah.
But from what it looks like right now, with Penny looking to be on the pup list, it looks like Chris Carson's going to be a workhorse running back, right?
Mhm.
And last year he looked like a beast. I mean, he was running dudes over. The Seahawks, they're a run first offense. Pete Carroll, the way he likes to do it. So I like Chris Carson. He was involved a little bit more in the receiving game last season. He might be even more so now with Penny being injured. But Chris Carson actually he played 15 games last season. This injury he has right now is probably the most serious, but
Mhm.
15 games that's the most he's played in a season actually. He had 14 a game before. But yeah, I mean, there's if they don't add anybody to this backfield, I mean, we're probably gonna have to move him up a little bit if that's the case, as well as Petty being confirmed to be on the pup list.
Yeah, uh, I was wrong. Well, you just said that he had an injury before that big one that I mentioned this past season. So for some reason, I was thinking that he was healthy, but should have looked into that more. Uh, I'll take that as a wrong on me. But anyways, we'll continue with Le'Veon Bell of the Jets. Uh, he's our number 17. So Le'Veon Bell is a great running back. Adam Gase is a horrible coach. If there's anything you've
Terrible.
learned
The worst.
from our videos, Adam Gase is a horrible coach.
He
Uh,
sucks the talent out of players, and
yeah,
he's saving it up for his, retirement. I don't know.
yeah. I can't pinpoint the specific things that he does wrong, but just knowing from the plays and the production that he gets out of really talented players, where does it go? But anyways, diving into Le'Veon Bell, he had a solid receiving game last year as a running back. I had him on my fantasy. I think he excelled more in that than the actual rushing. He had one of his worst years for rushing yards per carry.
Yeah.
Yeah, um, but hopefully with the improvement of the Mekhi Becton, uh, maybe he can get that running game in order. And if he matches that with the receiving game he had, then he could have a really solid year. Being a running back 16 last year, I think he could easily match that.
Yeah, he very well could be a value, because he might fall into the fourth or fifth round. But the things that worry me is, I mean, he's getting a little bit older. We saw he wasn't quite as efficient on the ground last year, but I
Mhm.
think most of that is probably due to the offense and because he was coming off of, a season where he didn't play a single game when he held out with the Steelers.
Yeah,
But yeah, the offense doesn't encourage me. The coach doesn't encourage me. They let Robbie Anderson walk. They added Denzel Mims. Cool. That's probably not an improvement. Robbie Anderson was an established vet. I think he was a pretty solid receiver. Mims is, I mean, he's a very athletic, good-looking wide receiver, but I don't think he's quite at the level
yeah,
right now as what Robbie Anderson is. So I see that as a negative. But they did improve the offensive line, which is a little bit encouraging. But that's the thing. When you're on an offense, which I personally believe is probably a bottom five offense in the entire league, I just don't expect them to score a lot of points. It's nice because Lev Bell does catch the ball and he looks to be a workhorse back. He seems like he's a pretty safe floor, right? I wouldn't be excited to have as my RB2, but he's going to be a nice steady one for your roster. But I just don't think his ceiling is very high.
yeah. I think steady is a good term to describe him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. David Johnson at number 18. The big trade that went to the Texans.
Oh yeah.
Is he a DeAndre Hopkins in running back? Probably not. I'd say probably not. But if you were comparing early David Johnson, I'd say oh yeah, definitely. But this is not early David Johnson. And as I say that, it seems like I might be a little down on him, but I have loved watching David Johnson play in the NFL, and I've always wanted him to succeed. And hopefully, he gets through a whole year, no injuries, no problems with playing time, and that they really use him as a workhorse, and that maybe he gets back to half of what he was his first 2 years, and that could be great. He finished 10th in his last full year of playing, 2018, 940 rushing, 226 receiving. That's not the best, but I mean to finish still 10th with that amount of like work that he put in. I know he didn't really have the
That
most
that was the
carries.
season where they had an awful year too. That's why they're the number one pick because they were terrible that year, and he still managed number 10.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't have the as much carries per game because of that offense. But he still did really solid, and if he plays healthily or healthy, then I think he could recreate a good amount of that, especially in receiving with the Texans.
Yep, Bill O'Brien. Oh my lord, he better use him as a workhorse running back because you invested so much in him. You gave them DeAndre Hopkins. Are you kidding me?
Mhm.
Yeah, you're gonna look like an idiot if you don't use this guy. You better use him. Although I think he is an idiot regardless. But David Johnson, uh, he looks like he should be the workhorse running back. We saw last year Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde, nobody wanted him. He was just I think he was on like 3 or 4 teams within like a year. It was crazy. Nobody wanted him. He was just trash. They picked him up, started him. He had 1,000 yards. Like I don't think he's good, and that just supports my idea that I think David Johnson could get 1,000 yards. And David Johnson, he's been a great, fantastic receiving running back. I mean, there's one year, it might have been 2016. I know I saw him Pro Football Focus. He was graded as the #1 receiver in the NFL, above all other receivers, his receiving grade. He's just a great pass catching running back. And my biggest concern with him is that Deshaun Watson, he hasn't used the running back that much in the passing game, but I'm hoping that they're going to game plan to throw it to him more often because they invested so heavily into David Johnson. And since they don't have an alpha #1 receiver, top 10 receiver like DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm hoping that they will use him more. He kind of reminds me of the year like 2018 when Lamar Miller was a starter. He
Yeah.
was somebody that he was just steady, but never had huge weeks. But I think David Johnson's a little better. So I mean, I would be very happy to have him as my running back too this year. I mean, he's on a great offense with Deshaun Watson, who I believe is great. So I I buy into David Johnson.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good gamble.
Yeah, for sure. And he's not going early. And I've seen on ESPN, Yahoo, they're all ranked so much differently. But I remember I saw one where he was being taken like fifth, sixth round, and I just think that's kind of crazy.
Hmm. Yeah, comparing ESPN and Yahoo, they're never gonna agree.
Oh no,
All right, number 19, we get into a rookie
first rookie.
that you may know by the name of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, going to the Super Bowl winning team of this past season. Who is that, JP?
What? The Chiefs,
The
man.
Chiefs. Yeah. So factor
Oh
an
yeah.
amazing pass catching running back. You think, oh, where could he go?
Oh
He's going to the
snap.
#1, probably not #1 pass catching offense. I think maybe Dallas beat them out. But let's say a great offense, perfect fit for him.
Oh
And
yeah.
oh yeah, and for a rookie to succeed, I think that's a really great place for him to go. They have a above average offensive line. You have Patrick Mahomes, who spreads the ball all across the field. And again, you have the speed of that offense factoring into as soon as they go, you open up the whole middle of the field for him to do the rushing work that he could do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a match made in heaven for a rookie.
Right.
Yeah.
If I believed, I don't believe this, but if I believed Clyde Edwards-Helaire was going to start from day one, then I'd probably have him in my top 12. But I think at first he's going to have to split the load Damian Williams, but he should eventually take that role over. I mean, I don't know if you heard, but Andy Reid was talking, and when he was speaking on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I can't remember who the guy was, but they said, look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He reminds me of Brian Westbrook. And then when Reid did that, he said, I think he's better than Brian Westbrook, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, what? And plus, also, supposedly, Andy Reid asked Patrick Mahomes, asked him, who do you want us to take first overall? And he said, Clyde, right? This is totally different from what the Packers did with Aaron Rodgers. This is a team that they take into account what their quarterback wants,
Uh-huh.
right? And he takes the guy. So if Patrick Mahomes loves the guy, Andy Reid loves the guy, how is he not going to become a starter at some point during the season, right?
Yeah.
And he goes to one of the most highest powered offenses in the league. I think it's probably the #1. I think they'll finish #1 in passing yards because Patrick Mahomes was hurt last year.
Yeah.
I think he's better than Dak Prescott. They're both great, but Patrick Mahomes is incredible. And when he was at LSU, right? It's like, dude, you got to play with Joe Burrow. The offense was easier for you. It's not going to be like that in the NFL. Whoops.
You're wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, but just the kind of style running back that Andy Reid likes. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is perfect. There's so many things that are perfect about this. Plus, Andy Reid, he typically likes to use one guy, a workhorse running back. So,
Mhm.
yeah, if Clyde Edwards-Helaire takes over this job, he could be a top 8 running back. But I just expect them to give Danny Williams a little bit of, hey, you deserve, some playing time. You won us a Super Bowl. You helped. I mean, he
He
had a
he
great,
won them the Super Bowl. He was
yeah,
the MVP.
he should have been the
He
MVP.
should have
He had
been.
a great playoff run.
Yeah. Hmm.
I think he's an okay running back who benefited from a fantastic system. And now you
Yeah.
put a running back who I think is good in that system. It's just even better.
Yeah. I can't disagree with anything there.
It's exciting.
Yeah. All right. Number 20, Devin Singletary, playing for the Buffalo Bills, going into his sophomore year. So they drafted Zach Moss in the third round, who is not a pass catching running back, more of a bruiser running back that I think they want to replace Frank Gore with,
Hmm.
who's making his grand tour of the AFC East right now. And but anyways, with Devin Singletary, I mean I loved him last year, and I was really high on him going into the drafts, and I
Yes, you
had
were.
him in yeah I had him in my team last year, and he had a great end of the season, and I really wanted that to carry into this season. And with that offense improving, I think that his pass catching is definitely not going to go down, being that it is Zach Moss and not like Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that's going to maintain consistent in that if he still gets a majority of the work, I don't see him doing terrible. He was running back 29 last year. Um, I
But
can't
yeah,
say that.
he just wasn't really the starter till later, though. But yeah,
Yeah, I can't say that I see him as a running back 1 or 2. Maybe I probably for me I'd go flex option. That's really good if he falls that low. But I think people are maybe a little higher on him than where they need to be.
yeah, I think he kind of teeters more close to the edge of an RB2, RB3.
Yeah.
I think I have him a little bit lower personally. I know it's not by much, but yeah, I think he's going to keep that receiving role for sure. I think he's got that on lockdown. He's a great pass catching running back, anyways, and he was very efficient on the ground. But it just seems like they don't want to use him as a workhorse pounding the ball on the ground.
Yeah.
But my biggest concern with him really is the fact that Josh Allen, he gets a lot of rushing touchdowns, right? He's used a lot within the red zone on his, using his feet. And then you bring in Zach Moss, a guy who's great in the red zone, short yardage situations. It just seems like Singletary is not going to get the goal line carries, those very valuable carries, to get the touchdowns. So that definitely limits his ceiling, but I can see him splitting 50-50 carries while maintaining a big part in the passing game, which I think their offense takes a step forward. I think Josh Allen does. I mean, Stephon Diggs can help him at the field. I mean, last year Josh Allen worked with Cole Beasley and John Brown, and I think they're good, both good receivers. I think they're both maybe wide receiver 2 or 3s in the NFL, not wide receiver ones. And now that they have a true number one receiver, this offense should be better than it was last year.
Yeah. I mean, they're called to be possibly the new team to take over the AFC East, and if I can't disagree with that, not
I
knowing
tend to
how
agree
Jarrett
too.
Stidham is. Yeah. They have amazing defense, so they're not gonna like need to like put a lot of pressure on Josh Allen, I feel. So I feel when they're on the field and if the offense has improved, they really just could be able to maybe take a few chances here or there, depending on how it's going with that offense and how well they mesh.
Yeah, and that could benefit Singletary using scoring more points. He could get more chances at touchdowns, especially in the receiving game.
I mean, yeah, and I say that because that offense is like I think is a unique. Their offensive coordinator, I'm not quite sure of his name right now, but they ran a unique offense that they just came up with a whole bunch of trick plays for Josh Allen, and I think they used them in Singletary a lot in that with options there. So again, that just if the offense vibes, he's gonna be doing good.
Yeah, when you have a quarterback that has that option, I definitely think it helps the running game out, like we've seen with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. All right. Number 21, Melvin Gordon, traded from the LA Chargers to Denver Broncos.
He was signed, he wasn't traded.
Trade. Oh man, I was so confident in that.
Very similar though.
Yeah, very similar. He went from one team to another. There's different money things, different transactions that happen, but that's what happened. And so Melvin Gordon, he's not from talking about. He's not my favorite running back per se. He's splitting carries with Philip Lindsay, Royce Freeman. I think Royce Freeman takes the most step back out of everyone. Um, I think this could definitely be like that pound the rock, pass catching type duo, which we've mentioned countless times before. Uh,
Sadly.
Sadly, yeah. I think he's gonna be more of the lower end pound the rock guy personally, just because I'm not a big fan of him. Um, but I think he's still has a few good years. I mean, I say I'm not a big fan, but I looked into his stats, and I know not this past year because of his holdout, but the year before he was having an amazing year. So you never know. And the only worry is that Philip Lindsay, you just don't know how much they're going to use 50-50, 60-40. You just don't know.
Yeah, I think Royce Freeman is just getting the boot, getting kicked to the curb for now, sitting on the bench for the most of the games. I think it's definitely going to be a Lindsey and Gordon split, and I'm a little bit higher on him than you are, and that's because Philip Lindsay, he was split in the backfield last year with Royce Freeman, and he still finished 18th in points last season. They paid Melvin Gordon, so I think they're going to want to use him. I think Elway didn't really see Freeman or Lindsey as a workhorse type of running back. So I think he brought in Melvin Gordon not to be, a clear cut workhorse, but I think that's the style of running back he wanted to bring in. And I think they're going to rely on the running game a little bit more with Drew Lock having a younger quarterback. And Melvin Gordon, he's pretty good passing game chops too. So he's pretty versatile, and I don't know. I think he's going to be used in both aspects of the game, but I think Lindsey will probably be more so in the passing, Melvin Gordon more so in the running game. Not someone I'm super excited about. I don't think his ceiling is super high, but if you have a strong receiving core, he wouldn't be a terrible RB2.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and I can agree with the point of being with a rookie running back and wanting to pound the rock to take pressure off. Yeah,
You're a rookie or young quarterback.
I said running back. Wow. I'm messing up today, but I'm owning it, so it's okay.
The
Uh,
words just sometimes don't come out clear. I know it's just
yeah.
so weird to just think and talk at the same time, right?
I know you're trying to help me, but I don't think that's what's coming across as. All right.
It's difficult for anybody, I'd say.
Yeah.
It
Number,
happens. It's life.
hmm,
I said it happens. It's life.
yeah. All right. Number 22, Pittsburgh Steelers, the quietest, but I think most prosperous team, or not prosperous, but that's going to come up in everyone's mind. Oh, yeah, the Steelers still exist.
He's
James
bound for
Conner.
tons of improvement on offense. Yeah.
Yeah. James Conner. He was running back 7 the year before last year, before
20.
the injuries.
Yeah.
And I think he benefits if Ben Roethlisberger stays healthy, of course. It was a thumb? No, it was elbow. And
Can't remember.
I think it's elbow. But he benefits definitely from being a decent running back on a good passing team. And
As opposed to these terrible quarterbacks they had last year. Jeez.
yeah,
Come
yeah, we
on.
don't want Duck to be paired with Connor. That shouldn't
No.
happen. But nothing against Duck, but Ben Roethlisberger will definitely bring out the best in James Conner. I have him low towards 22. 22 is still not that low, but just because of injuries and they might be liking some of those people in the backfield, being that they produce a lot more when they were given a chance. So I just am unsure about the carries there, But I know James Conner is still going to be their main focus, and they have
Mhm.
a great offensive line for whoever is carrying the rock.
Well, personally, I think if you told me he played 16 games, I might have him up in my top 15 because that's just my biggest concern with him is I know for sure he got hurt at least 3 different times last year. I think it was 4 personally. I can't remember for sure. But that's just crazy. I mean, it's not like the dude suffered 1 or 2 injuries or,
Mm-hmm.
just kept coming in and getting hurt. It's like, dude, like, are you looking like Darius Geis out there? It's wild.
Yeah.
But he also had a little bit of a history of some injuries. He was never this bad before. Hopefully, he heals up and is ready to go for this offseason. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Ben Roethlisberger helps a lot. But when James Conner's on the field, he's been great. Even last year, when he
Yeah.
was on the field, he did good. He was involved in the passing game and was getting the rock a lot on the ground. So being on a much improved offense, much, it definitely helps him a lot. He's going to score more touchdowns. That's just my biggest concern is I cannot find it in myself to trust that he's going to play the whole season, which I hate to do that because when I project guys out, I like to project them for 16 games.
Yeah.
Running backs get hurt all the time. It's a very physical position. You can't always predict injury, but there's some guys that just get injured more than others, and personally can't trust him. But honestly, if he's there for the first half of the season and you have him, it's going to be very valuable, and you could just get his backup potentially. Although that's kind of a mess, I think, because I think Jalen Samuels and Benny Snell are both pretty good,
Yeah.
and they also drafted Anthony McFarland. So I don't even know who I'd have as a handcuff now that I'm thinking about it. But I think when he's on the field, he's going to be productive.
Yeah. And uh, I entirely agree with the backfield.
That's
Just
going to be a mess if he gets hurt.
yeah,
My gosh, trying to
if you,
predict that, I'd avoid that.
yeah, if you want to go for someone on your bench, let's get back someone up. Don't go with the Steelers backfield.
Oh no.
Yeah. All right. Number 23. The I'll just say it. David Montgomery, Chicago Bears. Trying to think of something to say, but it was going to be along the lines that I was really high on him last year. I mean, he had all those films, all those tapes, how well he's doing in training camp.
He
But
was the
even
most hyped
before,
guy last year, man.
yeah, even before in his college days, when you looked at how he was doing on his team, you're like, man, this dude should be a beast. Going to also a backfield that's not really competed from like pound the rock standpoint. Which I mean, they have Tariq Cohen, but he could honestly be just another wide receiver for them if you think about it. And with David Montgomery, I really hope he has like a comeback year. I really hope that he lives up to the hype that he was getting from last year. Um, I think he has the talent. I think Bears' offensive line is, I mean, they're average, if not above average. They aren't horrible. Um, they should have, they have the pieces. They're more of a defensive type team, but if that defense again works out, if the pieces work out, then they're going to be running the ball a lot too. So it's just I don't know what I'm going to get from him. I put a lot of people above him because if he does as bad as he did last year, then you just don't want him that high. But it just depends.
Yeah, he's a definitely post hype potential sleeper here
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, I mean he was drafted pretty high last year. I mean that hype train was rolling very fast by the time the season was about to start, and he's still a guy that is going to get the volume. That's why he's still in that RB2 range because he's going to get the
Yeah.
volume. Tariq Cohen, yeah, he's evolved in the passing game, but the big thing was he was stepping in to the role for Jordan Howard, but he also had the ability in the passing, and that's why it was just so exciting. And he still has that ability. It's just Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, I don't think he's great. I just think he's terrible. I don't think he should be a starter personally, and it just hampered the offense and it limited David Montgomery's scoring opportunities. I mean, there was a point last season, in the middle of the season, I don't know if you remember this for sure, but he had 2 huge games in a row. It's like, oh my gosh, he's finally breaking out. So, I mean, he has that potential still, like I said. And if Nick Foles is the starter, which I think and hope he will be, I think that's going to improve the offense. As long as he gets that workload on the running game, as well as some involvement in the passing game. I mean, I think he's going to be a fine RB2. Hopefully, he can just improve on those numbers last year, which he didn't have that many. He wasn't super exciting last year,
I
but
don't know.
I think he still didn't have a terrible finish. I think he finished at the back end of a top 25 running back, which
Yeah, he was running back 23 last year.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's an RB2 right there. But yeah, still not super exciting. But he could be a value this year in the draft.
Yeah, and bring up Nick Foles. I mean, the Bears, with how the team is set up, they're not asking like for a high flying offense. They're asking for an offense that if you're on the field, just like, maybe get us 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals a game and let the defense do the work. And that's really all they're asking for. If they can just do that with Nick Foles, which I think they can, uh, they'll be able to run the ball more. So
Yeah,
hopefully
and I hope they
he
will.
can he can get the carries that can allow him to show off what he can do.
Yeah, I think he's a good bet for at least 200 touches, which is something that you want to see is the volume.
All right. So for a final, finishing out from 1 to 24, these past 2 videos, we have San Francisco 49er running back Raheem Mostert, who he was the most productive out of that trio that played on the 49ers. I think they were more leaning towards him um, because of how productive he was whenever he got the chance. But again, he's this low because being Kyle Shanahan, he's just going to throw in a whole bunch of tricks, I'm going to put this running back on the field just for you to think that he's going to do something, and then it's going to go to reverses, one back, one,
An offensive mastermind.
yeah. But when he's on the field, he's super productive, and it's like that's something you can bank on, that when they use him, he's going to give you a solid amount of rushing yards per carry, a solid amount of just being talented when he's there. And um,
He's gonna be yeah. He has a very good chance of just scoring too. I mean, they weren't a high flying offense, but they scored a lot of points. Honestly,
yeah, I mean, and they scored a lot of points through rushing, through that
exactly.
three-headed dragon they had, and I think that him leading that pack is just it's good to he could be how he was towards the end of the year last year, getting the bulk of the three and still be really, really good, which is why he's ahead of all of them for me. But he's not too high because of all of the not competitions that the other running backs have.
Yeah, I just hope we get clarity and if there's gonna be a workhorse running back. Matt Breida, he was traded to the Dolphins.
Mhm.
Hooray! Thank the Lord, we got one guy out of the way. But here comes Jerick McKinnon back. Gosh, I don't know why they kept him, but supposedly he's not even cutting yet. This is a new report. He's not even doing cuts yet, which he was expected to be back last season,
Mhm.
coming off that torn ACL, and he's still not cutting. I mean,
Oh,
that's
they're not using him then.
yeah, that's nearly 2 years, and the dude's still not cutting. That's very worrisome. So honestly, I was starting to be I was a little bit more worried about Jerry McKinnon's return at first, but now hearing this, it's like man, he might not play this season, so it could just be Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert, which I'd be much happier with two people, you know, leading a committee instead of three. Which they have Jeff Wilson there. He had some solid games, but I don't think he's the guy who's ever going to lead the way personally, unless he's the last guy standing. But yeah, Mostert, he end of the season, I mean, he was great. He torched the Packers, man. He torched them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's an understatement.
right. Yeah, he
Yeah.
destroyed them, and I mean, he did all right in the Super Bowl. I mean, but just the end of the season, we saw they looked like they were leaning on a workhorse running back, and then randomly Tevin Coleman would come in and start. You just never know. But this is the best rushing offense in the league. I think they were outpacing the Ravens. I'm not sure exactly, but they're top two rushing offense in the league. I mean, number one with the running backs. If you just account for running backs.
Yeah.
So to have a guy that could lead the league in rushing yards, if he's given a workhorse role, I mean that's his ceiling. He has the potential to do that. It's just you don't have the clarity if he is going to be even the starter.
Yeah, it's just the clarity, and like they're a heavy run offense team, but not just through the running backs. They had the Debo Samuel where you'd have two cross and they'd be distractions for I don't know the actual football terms, but that's distractions for Debo Samuel to then go through this opening. I think maybe Debo Samuel will move towards the wide receiver more, but then you get Brandon Ayuk, who basically is going to be Debo Samuel 2.0
Yeah,
with his ability after the catch. So they're going to be running the ball a lot, and you can count on a lot of carries for him, even though it's all going to be split.
yeah, for sure. And they got that great defense, of course, too. So they're not going to magically turn into a pass first offense.
Yeah.
It's not what they want to do, and they have, the perfect setup with the defense. So that's not a worry at all.
Yeah. All right. So that wrapped up our 1 through 24 top running backs, and I'm liking the list.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm excited for the season.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
If I can cue the music, just started right there. And thank you guys for joining us. I, exactly obvious words right there. If you're interested in our podcast, that's where I'll go. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter FFFanatics11, lowercase f's. Our YouTube is capitalized F's, FF Fanatics, no 11. And if you want to just listen to our audio podcast, you can listen to us on Podbean at FF Fanatics.
Thank you all for joining us.